Talofa, hi, and welcome to the last episode of Tanarumanga's Team Talk for Season 2. Proudly sponsored by Victual, New Zealand's first health and wellbeing supplement range that combines ancient Māori and Pacifica wisdom and ingredients. And so, we've come to the last episode of Season 2, and that's 27 episodes to date, which is no means, obviously this will be 28 if you can count that. I've got no guests on. This one's just around a recap, really, in terms of what the learnings from TUTT and, some of the amazing guests that I've had on board, and a bit of reflection from myself as, there's going to be a few changes happening in my life. And, even now, even though there's been some major changes, getting into this business side, way back in August, it seems, it's amazing that, we're already nearly halfway through this year. It's just gone so quick. So much has happened. And, as I said, with TUTT, TUTT to start with. And as I said, my ability and to learn about, a network, or my network, and getting guests on that, some of the caliber, just legends of the sport that they play. And obviously just the recent one with Dan Carter. Just so much that I learned from Dan, and even, I suppose, in the big scheme of things too, around sports people, even if you do have a plan in place and, you've started that, as you should, during your playing days. And I think that's a big thing coming from all the guests, and the ability to understand that you're at your peak of your selling power, or how would you say, being wanted, I suppose, for lack of a better word, and to use that at that moment, because at the end, when it's all finished, you've kind of moved down the list, and you're not at the height of the game, and you're not in everyone's on the tip of everyone's tongue, and it's a little bit harder, as we heard from a lot of guests through this. And I keep hearing, and I know there's a lot of things happening now, and a lot of in terms of sports people and post-career in all sports, not just rugby, and understanding that you're more than a sports person. The skills that you learn, for me, and not just a rugby player, there are skills that you acquire as you go through the game that can help you later in life, and starting off in business. And I started it a bit late, but I think, again, I'm not a person that looks back with regrets, and life is just as it is. But you kind of think back, geez, if I had my time again, I'd do this. But as people say, and as I say, it is what it is. You just adapt and move on, and you learn through that. Again, that's probably one of the biggest learnings from doing this podcast, is that everyone goes through it. Yet, you have to develop and learn a lot. You need to have a good support crew around you. Build a good team in terms of if you're going into business, because if you're the smartest smartest person in the room when it comes to wanting to get better at what you do, then you're probably in the wrong room, because there are people that have walked that path before you, and it's just about getting out there, asking them for advice, finding mentors that will help you, again, building that team. And people want to help. We're such I think there's a lot of, in all industries, there's a lot of giving back I've come across, which is awesome. I know that's in the rugby community. You see, haven't been in that for a long time, yet in the business community as well. And here in New Zealand, they all want to see people succeed. Something of the term I've heard, it's not, it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game, where there's only one winner. You can always have a win-win, if you work together. And um, you know, because of you're willing to help people, and then they'll be willing to help you, and then you can grow faster, and collaborate. And again, I think that was that was something that was told to me a lot, and um, and something that I'll talk about later around business. Yet, and that's probably something that came out of these team talks a lot around, you know, grab that team, get mentors, have good guidance, get advice from mentors. And I think you can put in and start to put things in place early while you're in the game rather than afterwards. Utilize networks that are within there, and persevere. Again, that comes from sport. Some of the people that I talked to, just recently with Benji Marshall and him understanding, the importance of brand, and how hard it is to work together, a bit like reputation, isn't it? And how easy it is to, you make one mistake in the public eye and bang, it's gone. As he's seen a lot of, and how much you want to fight for it. Ruben Wiki, and COVID hit everyone hard. I still need to bring bread onto the table, and you've got to do things that you don't want to do yet. You just got to get it done. And so I think that's really important. It's given me a bit of confidence in what I'm doing. Talking to all my guests, and they've been really open. Charles Pietro, I liked. Rugby skills is your currency as a rugby player, and again, that attributes to all sports. So you've got to understand that, hone those skills. Make sure that you're being the best you can be every time you're out there, because your currency grows every time you do well. Looking down our list, even great conversation with Sulu Tone Fitzpatrick, and just her learnings from being a young mother, understanding of taking things for granted, and hitting some low times, but the strength for her and her support network, and understanding the support of that network and family to actually get back into the groove of what she wanted to do, achieve as she has and is still achieving, and understand that it's not all about her, and once you start learning that, good things can happen. I think one of the other good things around my team talk that I really enjoyed, with that network, and having guys like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Benji Marshall being their first, I don't know, podcast that actually come on as guests, kind of resonated to me around, obviously the respect I have for them, but the respect they have for me, and also hopefully feeling safe and comfortable that they could come on and not feel like, I don't know, that they were going to be taken advantage of, or whatever can happen in these kind of things. And I take that with great pride, actually, because I haven't done much, new to this game, and I really I was quite chuffed with myself that I was able to have that, I don't know how would you say, that achievement accolade, with two greats, even as Rogers obviously still got some footy to go in the rugby code at the moment, and yeah, I just I think that's an achievement. It's like I think it's achieving those small wins, celebrating the small wins. I know that's something that the All Blacks talk about a lot. Yeah. So it's been a good second season. Yeah, wrapped around all the, fortunate to have some good friends and on board, and especially with what's happening now, you know, with what's upcoming with the Black Ferns and, you know, having Melody Robinson on and her passion for the women's game. And we see it growing and you know, so quickly. And, you know, with all that they've been through, especially now they've got dream team in terms of the coaches. And you can see that they're enjoying it too, the likes of Smithy and Ted, and they got them up dancing. I never saw them dance in my time with the All Blacks. I didn't even see them laugh a lot actually, but you know, they all seem to be happy, and pardon me, the Black Ferns have got them out there doing what they do. But I think it's good, you know, that a different environment and you know, lease of life, you know, add something different. I'm sure they're enjoying it, and by all accounts they are, and they're having some success with it. So, you know, long may that continue. What else? You know, I think probably in terms of our business, Victual, you know, our journey, it's been, yeah, I think everyone calls it it's pretty cliche, but that roller coaster, I definitely have been upon that. And it was tough with COVID for me. I think I've mentioned it throughout our podcasts. Yet when we were able to, you know, jump on the Sprout Accelerator, which when we were accepted onto the Sprout Accelerator, which is a program for startups in the agri-tech, food tech sector, it was the real turning point for us and for me personally, because I was scrambling. You know, I didn't know, you know, you start to question yourself whether you'd made right decisions, and you have you know, that self-doubt sets in, and it's all amplified by COVID and lockdowns and things like that. Yeah, I think once we got on that, which was we started that in March. So yeah, late Feb, March, it really started to put things in place. And I talked to a lot of people, and when I explained it, was like, you know, everyone talks about that light at the end of the tunnel, and it seemed that we had heaps of tunnels with heaps of lights, and because it was all new, that light shone bright, and every time we went down one, all of a sudden that light turned off because it wasn't the right way. So you have to get back out and find another tunnel, you know, or get back and try and find the right tunnel to go down with the right light that's going to stay on. But I think with Sprout, what it did do for us, it actually cut out all the tunnels that we didn't have to go down, and so it just gave us real direction into what we're doing. And which is what anyone needs, you know, in terms of building that business plan and things like that. And we thought we had one, yet again, you just learn so much. So you got to keep, actually peel back some layers. Instead of that, we had to peel back some layers. We thought we were ahead of where we should be. And again, everyone you talk to, all the successful business people, you know, everyone sees it as successes. And again, it's a bit like sport, you know, then when you talk to them, all they talk about is the mistakes and the failures they've had, and you laugh about it and you just, oh. But again, it's, you know, it's great to hear that when successful people have told you, oh, you know, I did that, you know, I've made that mistake, oh, you know, I've done that, oh, you know, and yeah, that was really helpful for me and for us as a business. So now we've got a bit of direction. Sprout was awesome. You know, we learned from those mistakes, and sometimes you got to go backwards to go forwards. And you know, geez, you know, like I say, some of those mistakes and some of those were financial. So, you know, that's some hard lessons to learn when you're a startup. But again, it could always be worse. And again, you know, stories from those that have done it, so they've done the same. So you feel in good company. You're not alone. You know, and then I suppose just more positivity. And for me, even, you know, this part of doing this was to help with raising brand awareness and, you know, all those things that they talk around social media, because we're hopeless at it, and, you know, but we're learning about it. we're learning to be better at it, and it's something that, again, that you need to become comfortable with, even though it's totally out of your comfort zone. And I'm trying, still hard. Yeah. I think I've given a lot of people advice around, it takes time, but when you, sometimes it's hard for myself to take my own advice, because you always want to get there or quicker than you think. And yeah, it's pretty funny sometimes how that happens. So you've got to think back around, what I did getting to where I got to, and from a sporting context, and take some of the advice that I've given to players that I've played with, players that I've coached. And that's, maybe I'm more of a, do as I say more than, do what I do more than what I say. So I don't know, but it's a learning curve, as all this is. So it's been awesome. I'm really, we're really happy where we are with, which obviously, we're still at the startup stage. We're right there, learning about bootstrapping. This we're at we're there. We're definitely strapping those boots, and we're strapping them tight. Yet it's but I think that's awesome too, because we move as fast as we want to move. We don't have to answer to anyone other than ourselves, and also the people that we've brought on with our team, who we feel are going to add real value to us. And who knows what the future holds, but we'll keep working at it. And I think in this last six to 8 months, it's been I think it's only going to help me in what I want to do next, and help me in understanding probably a perspective on life, and balance as well. As I tell people, I was 30 years in rugby, from a player and all the way to being a coach. I hadn't been out of rugby for nearly, or longer than that, way longer than that. So actually being out and having your weekends, not having to always watch a game for the beauty of watching rugby. It's what I love doing. I still watch every game. It was I didn't have to review it the next day, present for it on the Monday, and just, it does overwhelm you sometimes. And but it's just opened my, not opened my eyes. I think it was always there, but just having time away has given me time to think about other things, and I think which will only help, in my rugby career going forward. Like, I love coaching, so I will go back at some stage, and it's probably a good segue into seeing what's going on next with me. After this, I'm going back with Manu Samoa, so I'm back in the coaching ranks. So I'm looking forward to that. And it's funny, you go to in the Sprout, some advice from one of the mentors that work within there, and with all the other companies. When we first said, right, first thing, I just want to give you some advice. First thing, whatever you do, don't sell your house. Well, it's already sold our house. We told, and he goes, that's okay. And he goes, oh, well, second thing, don't give up your job. Well, I'd already given up my job too, so I'd already been up to strike two. So we were, we only had one strike left up our sleeve, and fortunately we haven't hit strike three yet, but it's still lingering over us. But again, those are decisions we make, and as I said before, it's no use looking in the past and regretting things. You're just going to get on with it. And I heard some quote the other day, or something, I think it was the Spaniards, but I'm sure we used one last year. I think it was the Vikings or something, when they said that, when they go to conquer or things like that, they burn their boats because there's no looking back. And again, there is no, we've definitely burned our boats. But it just means we need to build some more, and it just takes time. And I think we've given us that, we're still in with a go of it, and with opportunity, and now I've got to going back to get some work. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, Manu Samoa off to Fiji for 3 weeks, so you can't argue with that. It's been chilly, I know everyone, so I'm looking forward to getting some sun. Hopefully it's warm over there. Don't care if it rains, just as long as it's warm. So yeah, things are looking up already. And yeah, who knows, hopefully future, I'll be looking for something a bit more longer after that. So there's a couple of options, getting back into rugby that I'm looking at. And so, I'll be able to have to multitask and do both jobs. But I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably have a better base of knowledge about what's important, what I need to do. It's what people say is sometimes it's not what you say yes to, it's what you need to say no to, because there's a lot of opportunities that come up. You got to figure out which are the right ones, at the right time. So again, that's another learning for us. Other thing, I've being part of the Blues, it's been great to see their season this year. The way they've matured, and obviously with the great coaching group and the player group going from strength to strength, and the depth that they've created. Sitting back on my couch and watching was awesome, and seeing some of those rewarded with All Black call-ups. Having known them since they were young, very young, coming into the fold, in professional rugby, was a source of pride. And yeah, obviously we watch with huge support. I'll be going to the Blues game. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully I can get inside a warm lounge or something. But if not, then I'll just guts it out in the cold. Hopefully it'll be nice and warm, because for that kind of game, you want to make sure that, well, I'm sure we'd all like to be fine weather so we can get a good flying game. Yet the way the Blues are playing, their skill level, and is on fire. So I'll be backing Blues for this, and yeah, I'll be looking forward to it, to watch them bring the championship home, and try and end what's Crusaders' legacy. That's been obviously it's an awesome achievement, but it's been frustrating to watch. And that's only because they do it so well, and so mark of respect to them. And as I said, it's great to see Stephen Perifetta becoming an All Black for the first time, hugely deserved, and one of those where you see, always had the potential, just finding his feet, chucked in the deep end at a young age, through injuries and, through his own talent, and yeah, just to see that, all that hard work that he's put in, and what he's dealt with to get where he is, for him and his family, has been awesome. And yeah, I look forward to hopefully watching him get his first cap, and again against a tough opponent in the Irish. And I just saw their squad. They've brought a good squad over. Be interesting to see how they are after a long season, and on our home soil. Especially after what's happened in the last, the last time they played. So yeah, it'll be a good gauge of where everything's at. And obviously, there'll be some question marks, I'm sure, going in there from the All Black coaches around certain players, and some of them will have to step up. And there's some young players in there that, could get an opportunity. That I think there'll be a lot of pressure on our senior players and our top 5, especially, as that's, the engine room, as everyone says, and against the Irish last time, that's where we were a bit exposed. So, and they're proud men, and I'm sure, they've got it in them, they've done it before, but at home will obviously mean a bit more, knowing that they've, they've got they've got something to prove, because I know there's a lot of question marks around the ABs at the moment. Yet, there's still plenty of time before France, and I'm sure there'll be putting things in place to make sure that when it's time to go, they're in the best condition as they all could be. Yeah, and I think the other thing, like not having with the ABs and being able to do other things, not having with not having being involved in rugby, you get to do other things, and I'm going to be traveling overseas. I've already been over to Spain recently with Classic All Blacks, which is awesome. And if I probably go back again, talking to some of the players there who've recently finished, and the uncertainty about what they wanted to do or had they set anything up, again, this importance about life after sport really came to the front of my mind, and dealing with how they deal with it, how do you deal with obviously being and making a certain amount of money, but also being in the public eye, and then you kind of drop out, then because we always know that you can't make enough money in this game to sustain yourself. Well, maybe one or two could, but it's not like soccer or football or the American games. So having some really good discussions with some people over there, some of the players, and where they're going and what they've done, and again, you learn so much. It was an awesome trip. I really enjoyed it, and Spain's a beautiful place. The first time I've been there, and yeah, and so it's really, you realize how far we are away from everything, though. Obviously we haven't traveled for so long to the other side of the world, to Europe, and it did take a long time. I just forgot how long it took to travel. But in saying that, I'm keen to do it again. So, I'll be traveling overseas, a couple of times, obviously going to Fiji, and then I'm coming back, and then I'm going over, hopefully, to the States to do some traveling, and with my lovely wife. So that'll be good. And again, you don't usually get to do that so much with, you do, with footy, but you're there on business. So it's a little bit different. So I'm looking to challenge myself again on a personal level, and I'll talk more about that later on. And there's something about those things, as I said, around social media, you're documenting your journeys and things like that. So I'll try and do that, and see where that goes. But that could be another arm of this podcast or something, doing it while I'm on the move. And you'll see how that goes. So I'm pretty hopeless at filming. But yeah, I think that was probably the gist of this episode, really, just to update, show where we're at as a business, what I'm doing, and the learnings again from my exceptional guests. I think it's too many to name the learnings, I should say, but I'm really thankful for the people that I'm able to get on and who are willing to come on. So a real big shout out and thanks to them. On that, what else? Oh yeah, obviously the All Black team, Roger, Tuivasa-Sheck, the squad. I thought it was, I think that kind of the squad that everyone thought was going to go out. Halfback obviously is a big discussion. Took younger ones, and again those senior ones that have missed out. Realize it's only for this tournament. They're always going to be there, and knowing the nature of both TJ and Brad, I'm sure they won't. They'll still remind the player coaches that they're around. So, there's a lot of competition there, and maybe it's just an opportunity to see, obviously Finley Christie's been playing outstanding. Aaron Smith is world class, and, Folau Whakatawa's, he's the up and comer that they want to get him involved. So, you can see the thinking around that. Yet, you got two there literally just waiting in the wings for one to make, one mistake, or, have one bad game, because those guys will just sit there waiting, and the coaches will know that, that they can just bring them in at any time, I'm sure. I mentioned Roger, midfield, I think everyone's known since, the dynamic duo of Ma'anonu and Conrad Smith. There hasn't been a settled midfield like that, and people know when midfield combinations, that's something that needs to be made over time. So, trying to find that now, and they've got the Blues midfield pairing in there with both Rog and Enrique, who are playing well, and they've shown that. And whether they can take that to the level, that's the question, because they'll be playing obviously against world-class midfielders who have been on lines tests coming up. So that'll be a great test to see who the starting 12. And Jack Goodhue's just coming back from injury. So again, as we know from ACLs, it takes time to come back, to be the player you were before you departed. And it does take time. And I don't think I've ever seen someone who hasn't, just taking that little bit of time to get right. So, but to get him in, you need to get him in there to, get him accustomed to it again, see where he's at, and for him to see himself, at that level. So it'll be interesting, and I think a Quintu Paia at this stage would be starting 12, just because he's, who knows? I just think he's been the stalwart incumbent probably, and I think there'll be it's close to cool. I'm not too sure. And then in the midfield, I would have gone with the Auckland pairing, and just because they know each other's game. But who knows? Who knows what will happen? I'm happy to see Lester Whanganuku in there. He's some beef in there, whether it's on the wing or who can cover midfield. Promising players. So I think they've got some exciting young players involved. Just again, you go back to the engine room where it all starts, and that's where the question marks will be. I think question marks are, and that's how it should be. Those senior players know what's required of them, what's required to win World Cups, because they have. We'll see if they pull it out. I think that's it in my roundup. Hopefully I haven't bored anyone. And, I don't know when the next season 3 will come out, but they're, with enough, we're getting some positive feedback, and, who knows what will happen, and, when it'll be back out, but shouldn't be too far away. We've got to go over to Fiji and enjoy some sun first. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much for listening. Always appreciate your support, and make sure make sure you keep listening, and look out for season 3 coming soon. Te lava. Fa.